The order came in at 12:11 a.m. And that's what I remember first. Not the name, not the address. The time, because I don't usually take ridge runs after midnight, especially not cash orders. But it was slow, and the ticket printed clean large pepperoni, 2-liter, cola, cash on delivery. Briar Ridge sits outside Logan, past the old coal tipple where the conveyor's been rusting since '98. You take Route 17 until the road narrows and the guardrails disappear. Then it's just a 2-lane strip climbing into trees. Houses thin out, porch lights get spaced wider. By the time you reach the last mailbox cluster, you can see more dark than light. There's something drivers say around here, not written anywhere. Just something you hear if you stick around long enough. Don't drive past the last lit porch. That night, the last lit porch was a white farmhouse with a satellite dish hanging crooked. After that, the road bent left and went black. My GPS lost signal right as I passed it. Not uncommon in the hollers. What was strange was the receipt on my passenger seat. The timestamp 12:11 blinked, then shifted to 12:12. I thought maybe I'd read it wrong, but when I glanced again, it blinked to 12:13, like it hadn't settled yet. The address was a trailer at the dead end. I knew the spot. Gravel turnaround, no outlet, no streetlight, just trees pressing in tight on both sides like they're listening. When I pulled up, the trailer was dark, not dim, not someone forgot the porch bulb, but the door was cracked open, maybe 3 inches. I cut the engine, and everything went quiet except for ticking metal cooling under the hood. The app still showed customer waiting. I stepped out with a pizza bag in one hand and knocked with the other. The door moved inward a little from the knock, like it wasn't latched. I didn't push it. I just stood there and said the name on the receipt. No answer. What I noticed next was the smell, not rot. Nothing dramatic, just stale air, like a house that's been closed up too long. No television glow, no footsteps shifting inside. My phone buzzed, no new notification, just the same order screen. Still active, still waiting. I backed up off that porch slower than I walked up. I told myself maybe someone stepped out back. Maybe they were grabbing cash from a car, but there were no tire tracks fresh in the gravel. No second vehicle. When I got back in my car, I looked at the receipt again. 12:17 Emmett had jumped ahead. I drove back down Briar Ridge without delivering it, past the white farmhouse. The porch light was still on. I almost stopped to ask if they knew the folks at the end, but something about the way their curtains were pulled tight kept me moving. The next morning, I mentioned it to Dale, who's delivered longer than I have. He didn't laugh, didn't roll his eyes. He just said, that trailer. Man died there 3 days ago. Heart. They hauled him out Tuesday. I thought he was messing with me until he told me the man's name. Same as the receipt. I checked the local obituaries on my break. There it was, service pending, survived by a sister in Charleston. That should have been the end of it. Glitch in the system, old account. Maybe someone placed it as a mistake. But that night, at exactly 12:17 a.m., the printer in the kitchen word, samey order, same name, new timestamp. The manager blamed a backlog error. Said the system sometimes catches up. He voided it manually. I took the slip home anyway, folded it and set it on my desk. At 12:17 the next night, my phone lit up. The receipt timestamp, sitting untouched on my desk, changed. 12:18, I hadn't opened the app, hadn't logged in. But the printed time had advanced, faint ink darkening like it was fresh. I pinned that receipt to the wall above my desk so I wouldn't misplace it. Watched it for 3 nights straight. Every night at 12:17, it updated. No notification sound. No vibration. Just the time moving forward. I haven't driven Briar Ridge since. I trade those runs if they come in. Most of the new hires don't question it. They just take the route and go. Last I heard, someone else took a late-night cash order up there last week. They said the porch light at the farmhouse was off, and the next order didn't come from Briar Ridge. It came from just across the county line. The first time it happened, I blamed the mountains. The second time, I blamed my phone. By the third time, I stopped blaming anything. I run overnight pharmacy, deliveries out of Chapmanville, blood pressure meds, insulin refills, the quiet stuff people need before morning. Most of my route stays on paved roads with decent signal, but there's one address that sits right on the line between Logan and Boone County, where the towers don't seem to agree who should cover it. You cross a narrow bridge over Island Creek, pass a leaning green sign that says County Line, and service usually flickers. That's normal. What wasn't normal was the app. Every time I crossed that line with a delivery for the same name, Earl T. Maynard, my bars dropped to 0, but the screen stayed active, not frozen, not buffering. It updated in real time. Customer waiting. The first night, I pulled over before the gravel drive. His mailbox was stuffed so full, the metal door wouldn't close. Sympathy cards, mostly. I could see the pastel envelopes from the road. I remember thinking someone should bring those in. The house sat back behind a sagging split rail fence. Single story, aluminum siding, one porch light burned out. The place looked settled in the way homes do when someone lives alone. One chair on the porch, an empty bird feeder swaying slow. I knocked. No answer. My phone buzzed. Still no signal, but the app updated. Please knock louder. I checked my bars again. Nothing. I held the phone up toward the sky. Like that might help. Dead. A truck passed behind me on the road, headlights sweeping across the yard. The beam caught the front window just right, and I saw dust in the air. Thick, undisturbed. There was no one moving inside. I left the package on the porch that night because it was prepaid. Took a photo for confirmation. The photo uploaded instantly. That part bothered me most. When I got back to town, I mentioned it to a deputy who stops by the pharmacy for coffee. I asked if he knew the Maynard place. He didn't smile. Earl passed in January, he said. Winter storm. They found him after 3 days. January was 4 months ago. I checked the order history when I got home. The account was active, payment method valid. Delivery instructions updated last week. Bridge loses signal. Keep driving. The next time it came through, same medication, same address. I told my supervisor. I didn't like it. She shrugged. Said the system doesn't flag accounts unless family reports them. So I drove it again. Crossed the bridge. Lost signal. Customer waiting. I didn't even get out that time. I just watched the front window from my car. Nothing moved. No curtain shift. No light flicker. Then the app added a line beneath the status. Running late tonight. I looked at the timestamp. It was current. Down to the minute. There's something folks say around here when the fog settles heavy over the creek. If the phone dies but the road keeps talking, you turn around. I turned around, back at the pharmacy. I printed the delivery log for that account. Paper doesn't lie the way screens do. The last confirmed in-person signature was dated the week before his obituary. After that, every confirmation showed as contactless. All completed. I asked the deputy again the next day. He told me the family lives in Charleston and hasn't been back to the house. Utilities were cut in February. That house shouldn't have power. But the app still showed him waiting. Last week, the system rerouted me to a different address, just beyond the county line. And the moment I crossed it, my signal dropped again. The tip was generous. That's what pulled me in. $17.40 on a prepaid barbecue order, headed out past Miller's Fork. That stretch of road runs narrow and flat along the water, before climbing into low ridges dotted with older houses, paint peeling. Porches sagging, yards kept neat out of habit more than prime. It was a Thursday, slow night, just after 11. The name on the order was Harold Gentry. I recognized it because we delivered there before. Always prepaid. Always tipped well. Never answered the door. The delivery instructions read, leave on bench. Take from jar. Thank you kindly. You turn off Route 10 and follow Miller's Fork Road until the pavement turns to chip seal. The Gentry house sits alone. White siding gone dull with age. Roof patched in 3 places. There's a single porch light that casts more shadow than glow. The bench was there, just like the instructions said, and so was the jar. Clear mason jar with black marker on masking tape. Driver. Inside was exact change, $17.40. 2 tens folded neat, coins counted down to the dime. I hadn't even set the food down yet. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. Crickets. Water moving slow in the fork. No television hum, no footsteps inside. I knocked once out of habit. Nothing. The windows were dark, not drawn. Just empty. You can tell when a house is occupied by the way the air moves behind glass. This place felt sealed. There's a saying some of the older drivers repeat when we're closing up shop. If they won't open the door, they don't expect to. I left the bag on the bench and took the cash from the jar. The app required a photo. When I snapped it, my flash lit up the porch hard for half a second. In that flash, I noticed something tucked under the bench laying. A folded paper. I crouched down and pulled it free. It was a funeral program. Cream-colored cardstock. In loving memory of Harold Gentry. Service held 2 Sundays ago at Miller's Fork Baptist. Same name as the order. Same address. I stood up slow, like someone might be watching from inside. But the windows didn't change. The porch light hummed faint, steady. My phone buzzed. Order completed. 5-star rating. I hadn't even walked back to my car yet. The rating came in before I turned the ignition. On the drive back, I passed a neighbor walking a dog near the fork. Older man, ball cap pulled low. I rolled down my window and asked if Mr. Gentry still lived up the road. He stopped walking. "Harold?" he said. "They buried him. Quiet fella. Didn't have much family." I asked about anyone staying at the house. He shook his head once. Then he said something I didn't understand at the time. Light's been on every night since, though. The next evening, another order came through. Same item, same amount, same instructions. I told my manager about the funeral program. He said maybe a relative was cleaning out the place. So I drove it again. Same porch light, same jar, same exact change. But this time, the coins were warm, not hot. Just not cold like they'd been sitting outside. I didn't know. I left the bag, took the money, and didn't look at the windows. Before I pulled away, I checked the app. 5 stars again. The account has ordered 3 more times since then. Always late, always exact change waiting. I haven't gone back. Last week, someone else took the run. He said the jar was empty, and the porch light was finally off. This one wasn't a holler. That's what made it worse. I was subcontracting for Amazon that week, running late packages out of the Beckley distribution hub. Clean neighborhoods, fresh asphalt, lawns trimmed in straight lines. The kind of place where porch lights are automatic and dogs bark behind fences with highway rules posted on the mailbox. It felt safe. The address was in a cul-de-sac off Harper Road. 2-story brick homes, identical shutters, security cameras mounted above garages. My route had been uneventful. All-night scan, drop, photo, move on. The name on the label was Margaret Halley. I pulled into the driveway at 9:42 p.m., porch light already on. That soft yellow glow that makes everything look warmer than it is. No cars in the driveway, no decorations. Just a wreath on the door that looked like it hadn't been touched since spring. I grabbed the small box and walked it up. The house felt occupied in the way empty houses don't. There was a lamp on inside near the front window. I could see the corner of a couch. A framed photo on the wall. Normal life details. I set the package down and raised my phone for the confirmation photo. Right as the camera adjusted, I noticed someone standing just inside the window. Not pressed against the glass. Just there, slightly behind the curtain, a woman's shape, still. I lowered the phone and looked with my eyes instead of the screen. Nothing, just the lamp and the couch. I told myself it was a reflection. Maybe me, maybe the angle. I raised the phone again and snapped the picture quickly. The flash hit the glass, and for a split second, I saw her again. Older woman, short hair, pale blouse. Then it was gone. I walked back to the van slower than usual, sat her in the driver's seat, and checked the photo before marking it complete. The figure was visible in the image. Not clear enough for detail, but enough to show someone standing inside the room. I considered knocking, but the app didn't require a signature. There's a saying one of the older warehouse guys told me when I started night shifts. Just because the lights are on doesn't mean someone's home. I marked it delivered and drove off. About 20 minutes later, customer support pinged my route. They asked if I had handed the package directly to the recipient. I said no, left it at the door. They paused before replying. The account holder passed away 2 weeks ago. The message read, "We're investigating fraudulent use." I pulled over at the next red light and opened the photo again. The woman was clearer now, not because the image changed, because I was looking harder. She wasn't facing the door. She was facing me, hands down at her sides. No expression. I zoomed in. The timestamp on the photo read 9:42 p.m., just like it should. Behind her, the lamp glowed warm. The house looked lived in. The next morning, I checked local obituaries out of habit now. Margaret Halley, 78, survived by 2 sons out of state. Service held 10 days earlier. The address matched. Later that week, I passed through that neighborhood again. Different route, different packages. I slowed near the cul-de-sac. The Halley house was dark. For sale sign in the yard, curtains removed, no lamp in the window. Empty. But when I checked my phone, that delivery photo was gone from my gallery, deleted automatically, like old confirmations usually are. All except one, the zoomed-in version. And in that one, she wasn't standing near the window anymore. She was closer, just enough that her reflection should have shown in the glass. It didn't. By the time I left Beckley and headed back toward the hollers, I realized something else. That was the first order that didn't require cash. And the next one that came in after midnight went back to a printed receipt. It should have been a glitch. That's what I kept telling myself. Printers freeze. Apps misfire. Rural internet does strange things after midnight. But paper doesn't usually update itself. I pinned the Briar Ridge receipt above my desk with a red thumbtack. Nothing dramatic, just a way to keep track of it. The timestamp at the top read 12:17 a.m. That was the time I first noticed it changing. The next night, I sat in the dark with my desk lamp off and waited. At exactly 12:17, the ink shifted, not visibly rewriting itself like something out of a movie, just darkening. The printed time rolled forward 1 minute, 12:18. The numbers looked slightly bolder, as if the printer had just finished warming up. I didn't touch it. I didn't log into the delivery app. The paper moved on its own. There's a line old drivers use when the system starts acting strange. If the ticket won't close, neither will the road. I stopped taking late cash orders after that. Swapped shifts when I could. But the store printer didn't care about my schedule. 3 nights later, during the dinner rush, the machine whirred without warning. New order, same name as Briar Ridge, different address. This one sat just across the Boone County line. I stared at the slip as it printed. The timestamp read 12:17 a.m. Even though it was only 9:46, manager said the internal clock sometimes lagged. He crumpled the first copy and reprinted it. The second copy said 9:46 like it should, but I pocketed the first one. At home, I pinned it next to the original. 2 receipts, same name. 2 different ridge roads, both showing 12:17 that night, both times updated. 12:18 in sync. The pattern started to settle in after that. Any order connected to that name, no matter the address, shifted to that time once midnight passed. The system didn't show it, only the paper did. I asked Dale if he'd ever seen anything like it. He didn't hesitate. "County line's thin up there," he said. "Signal gets confused. So do other things." I didn't press him. A week later, a new hire named Travis took a late run out past the Boone line. Cash order. Same name. He didn't know the history. He came back pale. Said the house at the end of the gravel road had a porch light on but no power lines feeding it. Said the door was cracked open 3 inches. Just like Briar Ridge, he left the pizza on the step and drove off without knocking. The next morning, he quit. I checked the receipt he'd left in the discard bin. Same timestamp error, 12:17. I added it to the wall. 3 slips now. Every night, they change together. 12:19, 12:20, 12:21. The time moving forward like something counting up instead of down. Last Friday, the printer activated at exactly 12:17 a.m. while we were cleaning the ovens. No incoming call, no online chime, just the mechanical hum. Blank receipt, no address, no item. Just a name at the top, and beneath it, one line. Customer waiting. The timestamp read 12:17. It hasn't moved since. I stopped pinning receipts after that. I took the blank one down and folded it into my wallet, thinking maybe if it stayed with me, it wouldn't up to. But last night, while I was driving home past the county line, my phone lost signal for a full minute. When it came back, there was a notification waiting. Cash order. Different road, same name. And this time, the porch light listed in the delivery notes was marked as off. The blue dot was moving before I even turned onto the gravel. That's what I remember. It wasn't blinking idle like most customers do. It was drifting back and forth inside the trailer, like someone pacing. Copper Creek sits low and quiet outside Madison. Water brown from old runoff. Bridge narrow enough that 2 trucks can't pass without one easing off. Once you cross it, service thins out. Everyone who runs deliveries down there knows it. There's a rule the older drivers say without smiling. If the bars drop and the dot keeps moving, you don't get out. I got out anyway. The order was standard grocery bread. Milk and soup, paper towels. Nothing unusual. Name on the account, Lila Harper. Prepaid. Delivery instructions. Knock twice. Wait. As soon as I crossed the bridge, my signal dropped to 0. No bars, no LTE symbol. But the app stayed live, not frozen, not buffering. Customer waiting. The gravel drive up to the trailer was rutted and soft from last week's rain. No fresh tire marks, no second vehicle, just a rusted sedan with 4 flat tires sitting half sunk into the mud. The trailer itself was faded blue with white trim, porch sagging at the center. One of those places that looks older than it probably is. Curtains drawn tight in every window. The blue dot on my screen shifted again, from the kitchen area toward what looked like the back bedroom. I stood there staring at it. No signal. But the map updating in real time? I knocked twice. The sound felt swallowed by the trees. No echo, no footsteps. The app buzzed in my hand. Please wait. That line hadn't been there before. I stepped closer to the window by the door and cupped my hands to the glass. The inside was dim, but not completely dark. I could make out shapes. Kitchen table, a recliner, a standing lamp. And in the corner near the refrigerator, a hospital-style oxygen concentrator. Tubing coiled on the floor, unused. Dust thick enough on the machine to dull its plastic shine. My phone buzzed again. The blue dot moved toward the front door. I heard nothing. No lock turning, no floorboard shifting. Just the creak behind me and wind brushing the leaves. I tried calling the number attached to the account. The call didn't even attempt to connect, straight to silence. But the app screen refreshed. Running late tonight. I felt the temperature shift then. Not cold, just still, like the air had stopped moving entirely. I leaned down to set the grocery bags on the porch. That's when I noticed the paper taped the inside of the door window. White sheep, faded ink. I wiped the glass with my sleeve and read it. Harper, Lila May. Hospice care, initiated the 3rd of November. There was a second line beneath it. Do not resuscitate. The date was 6 months ago. I stepped back slowly, groceries still in my hands. The blue dot on my phone stopped moving, centered directly in front of me. I could see my own reflection in the screen. The dot hovered where my chest would be if I were standing inside. The app chimed softly. Customer at door. That was the peak of it, brief. Sharp, I left the bags on the porch and walked backward to my car without turning around. The moment I crossed back over Copper Creek, my signal returned. 3 bars, then 4. Delivery marked complete. 5-star rating. I didn't confirm it. I didn't touch the screen. Back at the warehouse, I mentioned the Harper place to one of the other contractors, older woman named Denise. who's been running routes since before the app system. She didn't look surprised. They found her last winter, she said. Family never cleared the account. I asked if utilities were still active. Denise shook her head. Power's been off since January. That trailer had a standing lamp on when I looked through the window. Soft yellow light. I didn't argue. I didn't push. That night, I printed my route history and circled the Harper address in red ink. I don't know why. Just felt like I needed a physical record. 3 days later, another order came through, and the blue dot was already moving before I left the parking lot. The rest stop wasn't supposed to be open. That's the first thing. Mile marker 73 on Route 119 has been half shut for years. One sideboarded, the other running on dim lights and a vending contract no one wants to cancel. Most drivers only pull in if they're desperate or lost. My manifest said I had a prepaid snack delivery scheduled there at 1:08 a.m. name on the order. Thomas R. Bell, instructions, meet near vending. I almost called dispatch to confirm. Instead, I turned off at the ramp and rolled into a parking lot washed in sodium orange light. 2 tractor trailers idled on the far end. No cars near the building. There's a saying the old freight guys use when they talk about that stretch of highway. If the rest stop's brighter than the road, something's waiting. The vending machines were humming when I stepped inside. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The place smelled like old mop water and stale coffee. Bathrooms locked, tourist brochure rack empty. No attendant, no one near the machines. My phone still had full bars, but the app showed the blue dot inside the building, shifting between the soda machine and the snack aisle. I stood there holding a crate of bottled drinks and individually wrapped sandwiches. Thomas, I called out. The hum from the machine swallowed my voice. My phone buzzed, 3 missed calls, all from the same number attached to the order. Time-stamped 12:54 a.m., 12:57 a.m., 1:03 a.m. I hadn't heard it ring. I checked the call log again. The time on the missed calls was marked 30 minutes in the future. 1:38 a.m., 1:41 a.m., 1:47 a.m., but it was only 1:10. The blue dot moved again. Closer to me. I stepped back toward the entrance. Glass doors reflected the vending lights and long, warped streaks. Outside, the truck engines idled steady, like nothing was wrong. I tried calling the number. The line connected instantly. No ringing, just air. Not breathing, not static, just open space. Then, faintly, the sound of a turn signal clicking. Click, click, like someone sitting in a parked car with the engine off. The app updated. Customer approaching. I turned toward the parking lot. No headlights moving. No doors opening. The truckers hadn't shifted position. I set the crate down on the bench near the vending machines. Delivery's here, I said into the empty room. The fluorescent light above me flickered twice, then steadied. On the far wall near the water fountain, I noticed a small corkboard with outdated notices. Highway cleanup volunteer dates from last year, weather alerts, and one printed sheet pinned crooked. Memorial Service, Thomas Bell, the 14th of July, Route 119 accident. The date was 3 weeks ago. Location listed, mile marker 73. My phone buzzed again. Please don't leave. The blue dot stopped directly in front of me, close enough that, if it were accurate, someone would have been standing chest to chest. There was no one. The vending machine beside me rattled suddenly, like someone had kicked it from the inside. A bag of chips shifted in its coil and dropped into the tray with a dull thud. That was the peak of it. Brief. Mechanical. I didn't wait to see if anything else would move. I left the crate on the bench and walked out steady, not running, not looking back. Got in my van and pulled onto the highway without checking the mirrors. About 10 miles down the road, my phone chimed. Order completed. 5-star rating. The timestamp on the confirmation read 1947 a.m., the same time as the last missed call. Back at the warehouse, I asked around about mile marker 73. One of the older drivers nodded once. Wrecked there last month, he said. Single vehicle. Guy waiting for a pickup that never showed. He didn't elaborate. The account for Thomas Bell remains active in the system. It hasn't ordered again yet, but every time I pass that exit now, my phone loses signal for just a second. Even when the bars stay full and the blue dot flickers near the vending machines, the reroute didn't make sense. That's what stuck with me. I've driven Boone County long enough to know which roads exist and which ones only show up on old survey maps. When my GPS redirected me off Route 3 onto something labeled Service Access 12, I hesitated. There hasn't been active mining out there in years. The order came in at 11:58 p.m. takeout. Prepaid name attached, Daniel Whitaker. Delivery note, follow the detour. I'm here. There was no detour still. I turned. The paved road narrowed into cracked asphalt, then into packed gravel. Trees leaned inward, brushing the sides of my car. My signal dropped from 4 bars to 1, then none, but the app stayed active. Customer waiting. There's an old warning I heard from a retired miner who used to order from us every Friday. If the mine road shows up on your map but not under your tires, you back up. Under my tires, it was real enough. Gravel popping, suspension shifting, but I'd never seen this road on any official route. The GPS voice calmly announced, "You have arrived." I was staring at a chain stretched across the entrance to an abandoned mine portal. No house, no mailbox. Just a wooden post with a faded, "No trespassing" sign and a white cross hammered into the dirt off to the side. Artificial flowers tied around it with frayed ribbon. Roadside memorial. I cut the engine and listened. Wind moving through high brush. A loose sheet of tin somewhere tapping against itself. The blue dot on my screen sat beyond the chain, inside the tree line near the mine entrance. Then it moved. Deeper. The app chimed softly. "Please, come closer." I didn't get out. Instead, I rolled the window down halfway and called out the name. "Daniel?" No answer. The smell out there was coal dust and wet earth. Even years after closure, it lingers. You taste it more than you smell it. My phone vibrated. Incoming call. "Daniel Whitaker?" I answered without thinking. The line connected immediately. No greeting, no background noise, just a low hum, like distant machinery running underground. Then a voice, flat and calm. "You missed the turn." The call ended. I checked the recent calls. No record of it. The app updated customer approaching. The blue dot shifted from beyond the chain to directly in front of my car. Right where my headlights hit the gravel. Nothing stood there. I flashed my brights anyway. The wooden cross off to the side caught the beam. I hadn't read the name before. I stepped out just far enough to see it clearly. Daniel Whitaker, born 1986, died last spring. Location listed beneath the dates, Service Access 12. I stepped back into the car slowly. The app screen flickered. Order delayed, then a new line. Support notified. I tapped the help icon with shaking fingers. A chat window opened instantly, even without signal. Support responded in seconds. "This account has been inactive for 8 months." I stared at the message. "Then who placed the order?" I typed. The typing bubble appeared on their end, then vanished. No reply. The blue dot moved again. Closer to the driver's side door. My headlights dimmed briefly, then steadied. That was the peak of it. Short, sharp. I placed the takeout bag on the hood of my car and stepped back. The wind caught the paper handles and knocked it over. Containers shifted inside but didn't spill. I got back in and reversed slowly until the chain disappeared from view. The moment I hit Route 3 again, my signal returned full strength. Order completed. 5-star rating. Timestamp 12/17, and I didn't mark it. I didn't touch anything. The next morning, I looked up Daniel Whitaker's name. Local news archive. Mining accident during an unauthorized visit to the closed site. Fell through unstable ground near the entrance. Time of death listed 12:17 a.m. That road doesn't appear on my GPS anymore. But last night, while delivering closer to town, my route flickered for a second. And for just a moment, Service Access 12 was back on the screen. The order said 10:32 p.m., but the parking lot was already empty when I pulled in. That's what felt wrong first. Mount Olive Baptist sits outside Danville. White siding, red metal roof, gravel lot that turns to mud after rain. Wednesday nights are usually busy. Bible study, youth group, folding chairs scraping across tile. That night, no cars. The delivery was for 30 boxed meals. Fried chicken, green beans, rolls, paid in full. Name on the account, Sister Pauline Rami. Instructions, basement fellowship hall. We'll be waiting. The basement lights were on, soft yellow glow leaking from those narrow ground level windows. I could hear something faint inside. Not voices exactly, more like chairs shifting or fabric brushing against itself. There's something folks say about churches after hours. If the sanctuary's quiet, but the basement's lit, you don't go down alone. I went down alone. The side door was unlocked. It opened into the fellowship hall, long tables set up in rows, plastic tablecloths, paper plates stacked neat at one end, coffee urn plugged in but cold, no steam. The air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and something older underneath, not rot, just closed in. I set the boxes on the first table and called out, "Delivery for Pauline?" No answer. My phone buzzed. "Customer waiting." The blue dot hovered near the far end of the room by the coat rack. I stepped closer. On the wall beside the bulletin board hung a framed program from earlier that week. Black border around the photo. "In loving memory of Sister Pauline Rami. Service held Sunday. Same church. Same basement." I felt that drop in my stomach that comes right before you understand something you don't want to. My phone buzzed again. "Please set up near podium." There was a small wooden podium at the front of the hall, microphone resting on top, cord coiled neatly. I could still hear that faint shifting sound, like fabric brushing or someone adjusting in a folding chair. But the chairs were empty. All of them. I walked toward the podium slowly. The overhead lights hummed steady. No flicker, no movement in the corners. Halfway across the room, the microphone crackled. Just once, a small pop of feedback, then silence. The app chimed. "Customer at door." The blue dot moved from the coat rack to directly behind me. I turned around fast. Nothing tables, plates, 30 chairs. One at the very back rocked gently, as if someone had just stood up. That was the peak of it. Short, quiet. I didn't scream, didn't run. I just stepped backward toward the stairs, without breaking eye contact with the room. At the bottom step, I paused and looked at the framed memorial again. Her photo showed a woman with silver hair and a soft smile. Eyes kind. The program listed her passing as Monday night. Time of death, 10:32 p.m., same time as the order. I climbed the stairs and pushed the side door open into cool night air. The parking lot was still empty. No headlights, no engines warm. As I loaded back into my van, my phone vibrated. Order completed. 5-star rating. I hadn't set up the food near the podium. I hadn't arranged plates, but when I checked the delivery confirmation photo in the app, the boxes were positioned neatly in front of the microphone stand, centered, as if for a gathering. The next morning I asked a woman at the grocery store who attends Mount Olive about Pauline Rami. She nodded once. "Basement's where she liked to host," she said. Said she'd feed everyone one last time. I didn't tell her I'd already been there. That night my route didn't include any churches, but just before midnight, the app briefly flashed a new instruction on an unrelated order. "Basement Fellowship Hall. We'll be waiting." I didn't mean to start tracking it. It just felt better having something on paper. After Copper Creek and the church basement, and that mine road detour, I printed my full route history from the contractor portal. Most drivers don't bother. It's all digital now, but I needed to see it laid out in ink. Addresses, timestamps, completion notes. When I spread the pages across my kitchen table, a pattern showed up fast. 3 deliveries beyond Copper Creek, all within a half-mile radius. All completed after signal loss. All tied to names I later confirmed had obituaries. Harper, Bell, Whitaker. There's something my uncle used to say about hunting in the ridges. If 3 tracks cross the same creek, you pay attention. I grabbed a red pen and circled the cluster on the printed map view. The roads curved tight in that area, like something had twisted them inward. Service access 12, the Harper trailer. Mile marker 73 just south of it. It wasn't random. The timestamps on each one read 12:17 a.m., every single one. Even the rest stopped delivery, which I remembered taking closer to 1. I checked the confirmation emails for backups. Same time, 12:17, I folded the map and slid it into my glove compartment. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't want to sound like I was reaching for something that wasn't there. For a few days, my roots stayed inside town. Grocery runs near Madison. Pharmacy drops along Route 85. Normal work. Then, 3 nights later, the app pinged while I was parked at a gas station topping off. New grocery order. Name, Lila Harper. Delivery window, 12:17. Am I checked the address before accepting? Copper Creek. The moment I tapped View Route, my phone lost signal. Not gradually, just gone, but the map still loaded. The blue dot appeared inside the red circle I'd drawn on paper at home. Customer waiting? I declined the order. The screen froze for half a second. Then it reassigned the delivery to another driver. I watched his vehicle icon on the shared contractor map start moving toward the bridge. I called him. No answer. The map showed his dot crossing Copper Creek. Then it disappeared. Not offline. Just gone. 5 minutes later, it reappeared back in town. Delivery marked complete. 5-star rating. I texted him asking how it went. He replied, didn't take it, app glitched. But the system showed it under his completed jobs. I drove home slower than usual that night. Gravel popping under tires. Windows cracked just enough to hear the creak when I passed it. When I got to my driveway, I pulled the folded map from the glove compartment and laid it back on the table. The red circle looked darker than I remembered, thicker. As if I'd traced it twice. In the center of the circle, where the roads curved tightest, a small dot of red ink had appeared. Not from my pen. Perfectly round. Right over the mine entrance. My phone buzzed. No new delivery. No notification banner, just a subtle vibration. When I unlocked the screen, the contractor app was already open. New instruction banner across the top. Stay on route. The signal bars at the corner showed full strength. But the Wi-Fi indicator flickered, even though I don't have Wi-Fi in my driveway. I closed the app, opened it again. The banner was gone. Next morning, I checked local news. Nothing about accidents, nothing about missing drivers. But I noticed something else. The obituary page listed a new entry. Different name, address just beyond Copper Creek. Time of death. 12:17, and I haven't printed another route map since, but every time I pass the bridge, I feel that same pause in the air. Like something's checking whether I'll cross again. And the red circle still folded in my glove compartment, waiting for another dot. I broke the rule because it was raining. Not a storm, just steady Appalachian rain. The kind that turns gravel into paste and makes porch lights glow softer than they should. Coal Camp Road sits east of Van, tucked behind an old strip mine. That's long since gone quiet. Most drivers avoid it after dark. I'd said the rule myself before. Don't drive past the last lit porch. That night I did. The order came in at 11:52 p.m. groceries. Prepaid. Name on the account, Charles Donnelly. Delivery note, gate will be open. Come on up. Coal Camp Road starts normal enough. Mailboxes, double wides, dogs that bark as you pass. Then the houses thin. The road narrows. Streetlights disappear. By the time you hit the old tipple remains, it's just trees and runoff ditches. The last lit porch belonged to a small brick house with a blue tarp over half its roof. Light burned steady over the door. Beyond that, the road bent right and went black. I slowed there, rain tapping the windshield, wipers thudding steady. The app still showed full signal. Customer waiting. I eased past the porch. Immediately, my bars dropped to 0. No gradual fade, just gone. The gravel drive for the Donnelly place was half washed out. Mud sucked at my tires as I climbed. At the top, A sagging wooden fence framed a small single-story house with peeling green paint. No lights on. The delivery note had said the gate would be open. It hung crooked, one hinge loose, swaying slightly in the rain. I parked near the porch steps and shut off the engine. Silence. Even the rain seemed quieter up there. There's something folks around coal camp say when the flood season rolls through. If the water took them once, don't follow it twice. I grabbed the grocery bags and stepped onto the porch. The boards felt soft under my boots. The door was closed but not latched tight. It shifted inward when I knocked. "Delivery for Charles," I called. Nothing answered back. Through the side window, I could see a living room dimly lit by what looked like battery lanterns. Not electric, soft, uneven light. The power lines running to the house were sagging and cut near the pole. No electricity. My phone buzzed. "Please bring inside." Doors unlocked. I didn't touch the handle. Instead, I glanced at the house number, nailed crooked on the fence post. The paint had faded, but I could still make out the digits. Donnelly. I remembered that name. Last year's flood. Coal Camp Road washed out in 3 places. A man in his 70s found inside after the water receded. Charles Donnelly. My phone vibrated again. The blue dot moved from the back of the house toward the front door, stopping exactly where I stood. Customer at door. Rainwater dripped from the porch roof in steady rhythm. I couldn't hear footsteps, couldn't hear breathing, just that faint battery lantern glow inside. I set the groceries down on the porch bench. As I straightened, I noticed something tucked under the bench cushion, a folded piece of notebook paper. I slid it free. Emergency notice. Property deemed uninhabitable after flood damage. Dated 10 months ago, I stepped back slowly, keeping my eyes on the doorway. The lantern light flickered once, then went out. Total darkness inside. That was the peak brief. Sharp. I didn't wait for the app to update. I walked back to my truck, boots sinking slightly in the mud, and started the engine. As I reversed down the drive, the headlights caught the porch for one last second. The groceries were gone. No movement, just empty boards. The moment I passed the last lit porch again, my signal returned full. Notification popped up. Order completed. 5-star rating. Timestamp 12:17 a.m. next morning. I drove Coal Camp Road in daylight. The Donnelly house wasn't there, just a concrete foundation and collapsed framing from flood damage. No porch, no fence, no gate. I haven't driven past the last lit porch since, but lately I've noticed something else. Some nights, that blue tarp house is the only porch light still burning, and sometimes, when the rain comes down steady enough, the app reroutes me toward a gas station instead of a home. I agreed to meet him at the gas station because it felt safer than a driveway. That's how I justified it. The order came through at 12:04 a.m. Prepaid groceries, small batch, nothing heavy. Name on the account, Raymond Kessler. Delivery note, don't come up the ridge, meet at Pump 3. Pump 3 sits under the older canopy at the Marathon station off Route 85, just before the road bends toward Patona. It's the kind of place that stays open late, but not all night. By midnight, the clerk usually locks the doors and leaves the pumps on card. Only there's a rule drivers pass around about late meetups. If they won't give you a porch, don't give them your engine off. I kept my engine running. When I pulled in, the canopy lights flickered uneven, one tube buzzing louder than the rest. The store windows were dark, no clerk inside, no cars at the pumps. Pump 3 stood empty. The app showed the blue dot near the edge of the lot, drifting toward me. Customer approaching. My signal bars were full. I watched the entrance road in my side mirror. No headlights cresting the hill, no tires on gravel. I stepped out with the grocery bag and stood beside the van. "Raymond," I called. Only the hum of the canopy answered. My phone vibrated. "Incoming call, Raymond Kessler." I answered. The line connected immediately. No greeting, just the faint hiss of open air. Then a voice, distant, like someone speaking from across a large room. "Leave it by the pump." I looked around the lot. No one standing there. I checked behind the ice freezer, near the propane cage. Empty. The call ended without a click. I placed the bag at the base of pump 3 and stepped back. The blue dot on my screen moved directly over it. Thank you. That text appeared beneath the status. I felt something shift in the air then. Not cold, just thinner. I glanced toward the road again, half expecting headlights to roll in late. Nothing. There's a small corkboard near the ice freezer where the station posts community notices. Lost dogs, yard sales, church fish fries. I don't know why I walked over to it, but I did. Pinned, crooked between two faded flyers, was a photocopied obituary. Raymond Kessler, memorial service held at Petona Community Church. Date, 2 weeks ago. Cause of death, not listed. Under the printed photo, someone had written in pen, "Loved late night drives." My phone buzzed again. Order completed, 5-star rating. Timestamp 12/17, and it was 12:09. I bent down to pick up the grocery bag. It wasn't there. Pump 3 stood empty. No tire tracks had appeared in the damp concrete. No car had rolled in. The canopy light above me flickered twice, then steady. That was the peak, short, contained. I got back into my van without rushing. Didn't want to look like someone running from something that wasn't visible. As I pulled onto Route 85, I checked the contractor app. The order was listed under completed deliveries, signed R. Kessler. Signature line blank. The next morning, I stopped at the same gas station during daylight. Clerk inside, coffee brewing. Regular traffic? I asked about Raymond. The clerk nodded once. Wreck up on the ridge, he said. Didn't make it back down. I didn't ask which ridge. That night, when my route refreshed, a new instruction flashed briefly before disappearing. Pump 3 wasn't the first stop, and the next delivery address wasn't a house at all. It was listed as Lot 17 in a trailer park I hadn't driven through in years. Lot 17 shouldn't have been on the active grid. That trailer park sits off a spur road near Petona, past a junkyard with 2 rusted school buses and a hand-painted sign that says, "No parts sold after dark." Half the lots are empty now, power lines cut, meters pulled. The order came in at 11:39 p.m. Basic groceries, canned soup, white bread, instant coffee. Name on the account, Martha Leigh Carter. Delivery note, leave inside screen door. There's a phrase drivers use about old trailer parks. If the meters are gone, so are the people. Lot 17's meter box was hanging open when I pulled in. No glass, no digital display, just exposed wiring capped and taped. The trailer itself was beige once, now the color of dried mud, skirting bowed outward. One curtain in the front window hung crooked. No porch light. No extension cord snaked from a neighbor's lot. Nothing that would suggest power. My signal bars were full when I turned off the highway. They dropped to 0 as soon as I entered the gravel loop. The app stayed active. Customer waiting. The blue dot hovered inside the trailer near what looked like the kitchen. I stepped out with the groceries and listened. No generators humming, no televisions playing low. Just wind dragging loose aluminum siding against itself. I walked up the 3 wooden steps. They creaked under my weight. The screen door was closed. The main door behind it stood slightly ajar, exactly an inch. I could see darkness beyond it. "Delivery for Martha," I called softly. No reply. My phone vibrated. "Door is open." I didn't reach for it. Instead, I leaned closer to the window beside the door and tried to look in. The air inside looked stale. No movement, no light source. But something shifted. The curtain moved. Not from wind, from the inside. A small, inward tug. The blue dot on my screen moved toward the door. Customer at door. I took 1 step back. That's when I noticed the power pole behind the trailer. The line running to Lot 17 had been cut and coiled neatly against the wood. No electricity had fed that place in months. I glanced down at the porch floor. A folded receipt lay near the threshold. I picked it up. It was from the same grocery chain I worked with. Dated last week. Name printed at the top, Martha Carter. Timestamp 12:17 a.m. Delivery marked complete. I hadn't made that run. The receipt paper felt brittle, like it had been left out in weather. My phone buzzed again. Final request. That line hadn't appeared before. The screen door creaked slightly. Just a small shift, as if someone inside had leaned their weight against it. That was the peak. Contained, I placed the groceries gently on the top step instead of inside the doorway. "I can't come in," I said, more to steady myself than anything else. The app chimed. Order completed. 5-star rating. Timestamp 12:17, and my signal returned the moment I stepped off the lot. Back on the highway, I checked local records when I got home. Martha Lay Carter. Passed quietly at home 3 weeks earlier. Time of death. 12:17 a.m. Utilities disconnected the following Monday. The next afternoon, I drove past Lot 17 in daylight. The trailer door was shut tight. The curtain hung still. And the groceries I'd left on the step were gone that night. My route didn't include any trailer parks, but a catering order came through just before midnight. Location: Boone County Fairgrounds. Delivery note: livestock barn entrance. We'll be waiting. The fairgrounds haven't hosted anything past sunset in years. That's why the order stood out. It came in at 11:51 p.m. Catering van required. Hot trays. Sternos. Name on the account: Glenn Foster. Delivery note: livestock barn entrance. Set up inside. Boone County Fairgrounds sit off Route 119, tucked behind a chain-link fence, with a sliding gate that's usually padlocked by dusk. The Ferris wheel frame still stands from summers past, skeletal against the ridge. There's a saying older drivers share about that place: if the rides are still but the lights are on, don't park. When I pulled in, the gate was closed but not locked, just resting in the track. The lot was empty. No security vehicles. The Ferris wheel loomed dark, cabin swaying slightly in the breeze. My signal bars were full until I crossed the threshold. They dropped instantly. The app remained active. Customer waiting. The livestock barn doors were cracked open, just enough to let light spill across the gravel. Not bright floodlights, softer, warmer. I parked near the entrance and stepped out into the smell of hay and damp wood. No music. No chatter, just the low hum of something electrical. I pushed the barn door wider. Inside, long folding tables had been arranged in rows. White tablecloths, metal chairs spaced evenly, steam trays set at one end, lids already lifted. I hadn't brought mine in yet. They were already there, identical to the trays in my van, same catering labels, same printed stickers. My phone buzzed. "Please center near podium." There was a small wooden podium set up near the far wall, facing the empty chairs. I hadn't seen that in the delivery notes. The blue dot hovered in the center aisle between the tables, moving slowly toward the podium. I walked inside cautiously, boots echoing against the concrete floor. No footprints in the dust except mine. Along the barn wall hung a series of framed fair posters from past years. Between them, pinned to a cork strip, was a printed sheet: "In loving memory of Glenn Foster, event organizer, longtime livestock judge, passed unexpectedly last month. Location of memorial service, Boone County Fairgrounds. Time listed beneath his photo. 12:17 a.m. My phone vibrated again. Guests arriving. The metal chairs shifted slightly, not scraping, just settling, as if weight had been placed on them. I stood still in the center aisle. The air felt thinner inside the barn, like it does before a storm. The hum grew louder for a second, then stopped. Silence. The blue dot stopped directly in front of the podium. "Thank you for coming." That text appeared at the bottom of the screen. The overhead lights flickered once. That was the peak. Contained sudden. I backed toward the barn doors without turning my back on the tables. As I stepped outside, I glanced once more inside. The trays were gone. The tables were bare. No podium, just open floor and scattered straw. The moment I crossed back through the gate, my signal returned. Order completed. 5-star rating. Timestamp 12:17, and it was only 12:05. The next morning, I called the fairgrounds office listed online. No one answered. I drove by in daylight that afternoon. The gate was locked with a thick chain. Weeds had grown tall near the livestock barn doors. No sign of recent use. But taped to the inside of the gate was a faded flyer for Glenn Foster's memorial. Date confirmed. Time confirmed. I haven't taken another catering run after midnight since. But last night, the company pushed a policy update notification to all drivers, and it mentioned something specific about rural signal loss. The email came through at 11:58 p.m., which is not when corporate usually sends anything. Subject line: updated rural delivery protocol. Immediate compliance required. I was parked outside my apartment in Madison, engine off, scrolling through completed runs from the week. The fairgrounds delivery still showed as finished. 5 stars. Tip added. The email opened automatically, like I'd tapped it. Effective immediately. Drivers are instructed not to complete deliveries in zones where cellular signal is lost prior to arrival. It went on about safety, liability, verification failures. There was a line buried in the middle that made my chest tighten. Repeated completions recorded at 12:17 a.m. across multiple rural accounts. They didn't name roads, didn't mention Copper Creek or Coal Camp or mile marker 73, but they knew about 12:17. There's an old saying that doesn't belong to drivers or miners or church folks. It's just something you hear when storms roll through and transformers start popping. When the system notices, it's already late. I scrolled further. Drivers must turn around if signal loss occurs before physical confirmation of customer presence. Physical confirmation. Like that was something I'd ever truly had. My phone buzzed. New order request. Cash delivery. Name on the account. Glenn Foster. Location: Coal Camp Road. I stared at it for a long second. The delivery note read, "Past the last porch." I didn't accept it. The screen dimmed, then refreshed. Order reassigned. A small banner appeared at the top. Stay en route. My signal bars were full. I wasn't moving. Then they dropped to 0, just sitting in my parked car. The app stayed active. The blue dot appeared on the map, hovering over my current location. Customer waiting. I locked my doors out of reflex, even though that doesn't make sense for a phone glitch. The timestamp on the new order read 12:17 and it was only 12:02. I opened the email again to reread it. The text had changed. Where it once said, "Do not complete deliveries in zones where cellular signal is lost," it now read, "Complete deliveries as instructed." I blinked and refreshed the page. Back to the original wording. My phone vibrated again. "Incoming call, no caller ID," I answered. Silence. Then faintly, the sound of rain, not outside my car, through the speaker. Then a voice I recognized without wanting to. "You didn't finish?" The line went dead. I checked the call log. No record. The order reassigned banner disappeared. The map zoomed out on its own. Copper Creek, Coal Camp Road, mile marker 73, service access 12, all marked faintly in red. A small red circle connecting them. Centered on 12:17, my signal returned suddenly. Full bars. The order request vanished. No pending deliveries, no notifications. Just the quiet hum of my engine cooling under the hood. I closed the app and powered my phone, off completely. Saturday there in the dark for a while. Across the lot, one porch light flickered on in the building opposite mine. Only one. I watched it steady. Then I turned my phone back on. No new orders. No email, but under completed deliveries. There was one additional entry. Cash order. No address listed. Time 12:17, AM 5-star rating. I haven't delivered after midnight since. But sometimes, when the rain starts and the signal drops for no reason, I check the clock. And if it's close to 12:17, I make sure I'm not past the last lit porch. If you're still listening, tell me where you are tonight. Which one of these hits you hardest? And if you've ever taken a late night run that didn't feel right, maybe it's time to share it.